sign it, I don't know. Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2015 show. Sorry we're a minute or two late. For those of you watching wonder what happened now. Nothing. I was talking, basically. We're live from McGilvery Speedway, 30th and High School in Speedway, Indiana. And we're very pleased to be here. We are at McGilvery's Pub and Eatery. Good racing hangout. It's at 30th and High School in Speedway. If you're in town, stop in. A couple things to mention. One is Dave Darlin won his 100th USAC race, feature race, with his 100th. That's quite interesting. There's only a couple of guys that have done it. AJ, I think, is one. Rich Vogler, Mel Kenyon have all won USAC national features, 100 of them, and now Dave Darlin has done so. And the only Canadian ever to sit on the pole for the Indianapolis 500 has been elected to the Canadian Hall of Fame, and that, of course, is Alex Tagliani. We congratulate him for that. And also in the international one, Sir Jackie Stewart has been elected to the International Motorsports Hall of Fame. If anybody is interested, I have some tickets to the Friday night Indianapolis Indians game. Starts, I believe, at 7:15, I think. It starts at 7:15. I have some tickets. Come and see me after the program, and we will see that you get them. If you're looking to find out why it is that race drivers like to drive high-speed cars in close quarters, why don't you take a ride in the two-seater, the Indy Racing Experience two-seater? You can do that very easily by calling their office at 317-243-7171. Go to extension 106 or go to IndyRacingExperience.com. Find a date that fits your schedule, and in the promo box put my name, Don K, and you get 20% discount. And if you have grandkids or young kids 9 years old, they too could take a ride the Victory Lap. One lap around the track, and you could just go out to the Speedway any day that nothing else is going on and sign up and mention my name there, and you get the photograph free. So take advantage and find out just exactly what these guys and gals are enjoying so much driving high-speed race cars. My first guest this evening is somebody that I always enjoy talking to. I'm not so sure that he enjoys it sometimes, because I have questions that I probably shouldn't, I suppose. But he is the Executive Vice President of Marketing for the IndyCar Series in Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He comes with vast marketing experience. But most of the vehicles that he sold and marketed go about, maybe 100, maybe, if you don't get caught by the police. And he's taken that experience and brought it to the IndyCar Series. We'll find out how he's doing. Please welcome Mr. C.J. O'Donnell. One thing I noticed when I had your resume last time, and I forgot to mention, you had in the back of your mind at one time to drive here in a race car.
Yes, I did. There was about a 5-year period where my only aspiration was to show up here at Indianapolis as a driver, not as a businessman.
What were you driving up to that point that thought you could work your way to get here?
I was racing open wheel, so Formula Fords, Formula Atlantic, sort of a fledgling career as I was going to school.
So between studying, you were also driving?
I was studying and driving. Yeah, I was a student driver in a roundabout way.
And what were you studying when you were driving?
I was at Villanova University studying economics, and then I went on and got my MBA at the same time.
Did you study as economics as part of that marketing?
It was when I was getting my graduate degree, yes.
How did you get into the automotive industry? You worked for Ford and Fiat, and you and I had a conversation. I found out you had been to Japan, which I spent 6 years there and loved it. And we started talking about some of our similar experiences, and I found that very interesting. But you were also, I think you were over in Europe as well.
You're not going to start asking me questions in Japanese again, are you?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
He's pretty good in Japanese, by the way. Careful with that.
Not anymore.
No, I was recruited by Ford Motor Company when I was straight out of school. So there was actually a point in time where my dad looked at me pretty close to the end of my graduate studies and said, okay, what's it going to be? Are you going to get a real job or are you going to be a race car driver? I think I made the right choice in the long run, but it did lead to a career that took me around the world. And my family is here. made the journey with me.
Does your wife speak Japanese?
Skoshi dake.
Skoshi. Watashi onaji. Does your son speak it? Takusan, ne?
Wakaranai.
Wakaranai. So desu ka. Okay. Since you've been here, now you're here, this is your third year?
This is the end of my second season.
End of your second season.
Yeah. It feels like 3 years.
What's been the biggest surprise from where you came to where you are? What in the marketing world and so forth? What's surprised you the most?
Someone asked the question, what was the biggest challenge? I guess it's pretty much the same idea. I think that the biggest challenge has been trying to, or surprise, has been to try to get the notoriety for the drivers that we've sought after for the last 2 years. We're starting to make some really solid inroads. ESPN's now been extensively covering some of the drivers on their SportsCenter broadcasts as well as some of their other media. We've got Mike and Mike lined up for some of the drivers next week. But it's been a harder road than I would have expected, to be honest with you.
Mike and Mike, that's got a huge audience.
It's the right audience. We're getting the right hits. We're making the right inroads, but it's been slow.
Who are you taking there?
Graham Rahal and Juan Montoya.
The two combatants.
The points leaders, those running for the championship right now.
What have you found that IndyCar fans want? What do you have to do? What does the series have to do to get them to come to the track or to turn on the television?
Well, television's been a bit easier. I'd find that in the last 2 years we've seen steady increases in viewership, steady increases in ratings. NBCSN has been really solid in performing in the last 3 or 4 races especially, in delivering some good audiences for maybe the first time in quite a while. That's been done through some solid marketing and advertising. The attendance issues are probably they plague us. There's a couple events this past year that have been not as well attended as we hoped. Others have been record levels, so it's sort of an on-again, off-again situation. And we have to work really hard with the local promoter in the local market to make that better next year.
Well, one would have to assume, and I watched Fontana. I have had 3 friends of mine, couples that had tickets to the race. They said it's going to be 105. We're not going. It's too hot. And I got to think that the track owner and promoters didn't really want the race in June to begin with, so I assume that will be changed, or he could tell you. Are you working with them and other tracks to let's get together what's best for you since you know, and let us help you because what we know is IndyCar and the drivers.
Now, we have done a lot, and the schedule's always the most complex thing we do. It's a Rubik's Cube that takes a lot of input to really make it come together. And you're right, Dave Allen at Fontana didn't want to race that late in the summer. It's too hot there for that time. And, we're working with him now to find a date later in the season that's going to be a bit cooler for his fans.
That's a good idea. Now, I have an article in my greasy little hand that was sent to me from friends of mine down in Clearwater, Florida, in which it says the city of St. Petersburg is not happy because the race down there, which normally is at the end of the month, the 23rd to 25th or somewhere in there, has now been changed to the 11th to the 13th. And according to this article, and I wasn't there so I don't know, but I read what it said, the city's not happy because nobody told them until it was done. Until IndyCar and the promoter got together, then they told St. Pete, and St. Pete went, uh-oh. Because there is what's called a Mahaffey Theater. They have concerts scheduled there. They have all kinds of things. They have weddings. They have parties at the Salvador Dali Museum. Busloads of people come in to go there, and here comes a race in the middle of all that. And because of the Easter Bunny. Were you aware that the city was not informed? Were you involved in the scheduling at all?
No, that's typically on the local promoter to manage those communications and work with the community itself. We work with him, and they're our man on the ground, if you would. But there were a lot of conversations about the right date, and the St. Petersburg scheduling was probably a little tricky because of a late Easter, a situation where the race or the event promoter wanted to maintain positions being first in the season, and because of those things, they crept a little further in the calendar, a little further forward in the calendar.
and nobody gave any thought to, let's call the mayor and see what he thinks.
Well, again, I'm not party to what they did share or didn't share with the city. I like to think they were talking to him. The relationship there is actually the best that we see.
Right.
The community in St. Petersburg really embraces IndyCar, has done so for over 10 years, and I don't think we ever feel more welcome nearly any place but there. But it's an awkward moment when there's a breakdown in communication.
And of course, now you have the problem, people anticipating it would be back to the same date it has been for 10 years. They've got hotels booked, they've got airlines tickets bought, and they go, uh-oh. So they try and reschedule the airline ticket. It costs them another $100. If there's two coming, that's $200 more they got to pay. You're likely to have some fans that aren't going to be too happy as well. Plus, you got the Vinoy and all the stuff that goes on. That place is never empty. So you've got that place where they normally have the lunch and so forth. It can create kind of a mess. Now you've got to move Toronto again, put it back to where it was. It would seem to me, but with the Pan Am games, Toronto could have said, look, we've had this race here for 15 years. Why don't you move the games? But that didn't happen. They moved the race instead.
That didn't happen, and the city wasn't very happy about the Pan Am games either. So it was maybe not a win-win for everybody in that situation.
Is not one of the things that, and are you involved in the scheduling? I mean, did they talk to you about it? Because you got to market the damn.
No, there's about 6 of us that are actively involved in putting the schedule together. So it's not a single person; it's a committee, and yeah, I'm on the committee.
Who sits down and says, "Well, we had this race. Let's move it." And I've sent several emails about this. If you guys don't keep them in the same place year after year, people haven't got a clue, to book a flight, book stuff when they leave the hotel. So we want to be back next year. That's got to be very difficult. And why is it so hard to do that?
Well, you can pick circumstances, I guess. Toronto's probably the best.
Yeah.
I mean, the city and a lot of the cities that we race in have other events that are scheduled long in advance. Some of them, like the Pan Am Games, that fall right in the middle of our week. We had to work extensively to find the right date that allow us to come in, build a track, run the race, and then tear it all down and not disrupt all the construction that was going on that's set up for the Pan Am Games themselves. It's always something quite like that drives the date changes, and it's unfortunate because date equity is probably the most important part any one promoter can have to secure a loyal fan base. But it does get tossed around, and we're hoping now, after going through a lot of change and a lot of thought, that we're going to settle on a schedule that provides date equity, starts earlier, provides more opportunity for new races and more events in the coming year.
Has it come to anybody's attention? It has to mine, and I'm going to say something, but I haven't said anything yet. But I've talked with several crew members who their families are falling apart because of the schedule, because of back-to-back. They're never home. I know several whose wives have said, goodbye, that's enough, I've had enough. And I've also heard of some who are looking elsewhere for employment. You've got to open and spread the series out. These poor guys, the driver, poor guy, works, 3 hours on a weekend? Maybe 4 if you have to do some extra laps in practice. Then they get in an airplane and the crews load up the cars, they put everything in, they unload it when they get there, they fix them when they get back here for a day or two, and then off they go. I hope somebody is saying, we have a lot of time. Why don't we kind of spread the races out a little bit so these guys get to take a break?
Well, again, there's issues for that. And it usually comes down to tracks and scheduling of other events and things much along those lines. We try to find the right dates. We don't want them back-to-back. We don't intentionally put them back-to-back. Ideally, we'll go a couple in a row and then take a week off. We're getting closer to that by all appearances now for next year, where there'll be more gaps in between, give some of the teams some downtime, give some drivers some downtime. But it's tricky. Again, you've got local communities with events going on. You've got racetracks with previously scheduled events that we have to work around. It's not the easiest thing to put together.
Also, and your wife could confirm this, you have to leave. If you have 5 in a row, you're gone. You come home for a few days, and you pack your little bag. She does your laundry, you pack it, and you go again.
I got that system beat. I take her with me.
Oh, really? So she gets to come home with you, do your laundry, while you go to the office?
No, she gets to visit some great locations, and I go off to work, and then we meet again for dinner, just like we do here.
Oh, see, okay. Something you and I talked about, and I think to me is crucial, and that is when you go in. Now, do you take drivers at all events? Do you grab one or two drivers and you go into town and you get them on at trade shows, make appearances, or you go to the local sports talk shows and bring drivers and make them available? Do you do that, or does marketing department do that, or is that completely up to the promoter?
No, that's us. We'll schedule 2, sometimes 3 advance media opportunities where a driver goes into a market ahead of the race. The last one is the week of, and they will do public relations, whether it be just typical TV interviews or radio interviews or appearances in the market. For St. Petersburg, we have a go-kart race with a couple drivers as an example. There's some of them are a lot of fun. They're kind of stunt-like, if you would. They kind of attract attention. Others are pretty basic blocking and tackling as far as media opportunities. But it happens quite a lot. It's a big part of what the drivers do to promote the series. And frankly, it's the best way to get attention in the weeks in advance.
Do I understand that drivers at this point, their agreement with the series is we will make X number of appearances, period? It occurred to me last night, I'm sitting thinking to myself, they come in town in January for their physical and go over all the rules, and you sit all the drivers down and you say, look, here, we have a problem. How many of you would like a pay raise? I got to think a couple would say, all right, so we'd like to see you get one, and you can help us by doing something. Give us more of your time in between. You've got 3 or 4 months off, so you certainly won't get too tired, because the more attention you draw, and you've got to admit, the 3 ovals that you ran were spectacular, and the audience has been there since then, and especially with Graham doing so well, I think that's bringing a lot of eyes because they're getting attention. But give us your time. It'll do several things. Get more people interested to watch television, perhaps get more people to come out and see you race. We'll get better sponsorship, and that's where you get a pay raise. I can't imagine they'd say, nah, we don't care. There might be a couple of them that are making so much money they don't care, but I got to think there's some of these small one-car teams would say, oh, okay, that makes sense. You think that'd work?
Well, their interests are in promoting themselves, the sport, their sponsors, their teams, and they work pretty hard at it. I'll give you an example because I just have this off the top of my head. I was on the phone trying to schedule Juan for appearance next week. So Juan's schedule for the balance of the next 2 weeks, he's going to a test in Sonoma, which is coming up in the next couple of days. He has to fly to Europe for some business and to see his son do a go-kart race. He gets back on Monday, I believe it is, has a Chevy appearance here on Tuesday. No, passing that. He's off Tuesday. He's got a Chevy appearance here on Wednesday. He's got to be in Philadelphia on Thursday and in Pocono to start driving on Friday. So in that period, he's going to make 1 transatlantic trip, 2 media appearances for us, and a test. And that's all in what's supposed to be an off weekend. So these guys are booked solid, and much like scheduling a race, scheduling them to do an appearance is a big deal.
What's Mr. Newgarden doing? You keep him hopping?
Oh, yeah, he's easy to keep hopping.
Yeah,
he'll do anything.
Yeah, and that's good.
Yeah.
That's what you need, right. Because people can connect with him. He's a good guy.
No, he's one of our favorites, and not only is he local, so we can get to work with him a lot, but he's really amenable to doing just about anything, including dunking a basketball during the after the third period of a Pacers game. So I don't know if you caught that on video or if you saw it live, but it was probably one of the coolest stunts, and I've never seen him more nervous. It was really that bad.
There are some drivers who are very fan-friendly and very easy to approach and talk to. There are others that are not. But, I suppose now that Graham is engaged, he's out with John Force Racing, so he's kind of busy. But he does make appearances from time to time. I tried to get him in here, and he won't be in town until after the season. So he must be spending a lot of time in Yorba Linda, I guess. What have you in mind that you would like to increase? You'd like to see more development in order to get more fans and bring them out. What do you think attracts their attention? I mean, I know I know what gets Matt Brabaham's attention. I got it right here. And I think he's supposed to be here. I hope he's here in the next few minutes. But what do you think the fans want? What do you have to do to attract their attention and get them into the stadium and on in front of a television?
Well, I think we're doing it now, and it just takes time to really, seat in the market and make everybody kind of understand and be more aware of what's going on. I mean, races like the race in Fontana, thrilling. I always say it's thrilling our fans and celebrating our heroes. A race like the race in Fontana, that's thrilling our fans. The last few events have actually been really close. We have a championship that's less than 10 points apart. Those are the sort of things, those are the dramas that we have to portray and share with everybody, whether it be through the press or in our advertising or any other form. Beyond that, it's working with these drivers, much like we talked about. The more that people get to know them, the more that people get to understand who they are, their character, if they would, the more likely they're going to tune in every weekend.
It's been announced that Road America is back on the schedule. Now, it might be a surprise, but that's a road course. I understand there's a possibility that with that coming on, that Milwaukee could go away. And that is one of the oldest and one of the best races that ever. Now, how it got moved from being the following weekend after the 500 is beyond me. I don't understand how that's happened because that used to be huge. 500 winner come into Milwaukee, all the racers come there. Instead, they go to Detroit. Okay. It seems that, and I just had Gabby Chavez here. I said, would you rather have more road street courses or more ovals? More ovals. All the drivers tell me the same thing. We want more ovals, but it doesn't seem to be going that way. Milwaukee's going away.
Wait a minute. Nobody said Milwaukee's going away. You said that, but I didn't.
Well, I read where it's a good chance that it's going to go. And Mike,
we've actually had discussions with promoter
Mike Andretti,
with Andretti, with George at Road America, and the intent is to co-promote the races.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's no one should take away the perception that we're taking Milwaukee off the schedule as Road America comes on. It's quite the opposite. We want to do both.
Good.
There are some concerns, some business concerns with Andretti right now, but it's not our goal to pull the Milwaukee event at all.
Good.
So there's an oval for you.
Ooh.
And there may be more.
Ooh. Good. I think that somebody probably realizes in the IndyCar office that there was a series which now has joined IndyCar that went all to road and street course. It didn't work so good. They got to say, well, maybe that didn't work. Let's go with what made Americans, made A.J. Foyt a hero and Mario and all this stuff, ovals.
The quality of our sport, what makes us different, is diversity.
Oh, I agree.
We need to have a great balance of street, permanent road circuits and ovals, and it's our goal. It's our objective each year to put a schedule together that has all. And you have to admit, it's pretty balanced right now.
I think road and street got them by 2. So if you have 20 races, 10 ovals, big and small, and the other half street and road courses, that would be good. And I've said almost every week, I think the greatest drivers, I don't care what Formula One says, the greatest drivers in the world are IndyCar drivers because they got to drive everything. Can you imagine Lewis Hamilton running on Iowa at a 3/4-mile track? And when they invited Michael Schumacher to come run the 500, he said, I don't have anything to prove. Yeah, you do. Prove you can do it. Jackie Stewart was here. Nigel Mansell was here. What the hell's the matter with you?
Well, I'd like to think our drivers are the most talented guys in the world.
Oh, I don't think there's a question.
Because of what we put them through and because of the circumstances that they have to compete under. We see that often when they cross out into the world of sports car racing or something else. They're always very successful. And last time I was here, you had Scott. How many 24-hour races has he finished at the front of?
Oh, yeah.
So you see a lot of cases where our guys go out and get a chance to compete head-to-head with competition from other series. And we're always head and shoulders the best.
I don't think there's any question. You won't get an argument from me on that one. And I think kudos should go out to Connor Daly. He was winning yesterday until he made a little slip and spun the car and finished second. But he was leading and he drove extremely well.
Well, he did. And he's, I think the second time I've seen him in a PC car. He's quick.
He needs to be in this series. And that's, of course, where he wants to be. And a couple of times, and he thought, and I was sitting to myself by myself, saying he's got to get the ride, and he hasn't gotten it. I don't understand that because he could drive anything almost.
And his pole position and the performance he put in yesterday and a couple of the performances he put in the IndyCar Series this past year have been exemplary.
You know, something that's intrigued me, and I mentioned this to his dad and to him, as a matter of fact, that when I go to a racetrack and he's there, which is most of the time, he'll walk through a group and people will stop him. They know him, and he's not even in the series full time. They know him and want his autograph and say, gee, Merry Christmas, there's a guy that you need in the series that people like him. He's got to get in. You got to talk to your friend Mr. Fry to get him. Let's get going. Get this kid in a car.
Well, he's got that bacon company backing him right now. He's got to increase that investment.
I see. Okay. How much difference is there marketing in the IndyCar Series with what you were doing for Ford Motor Company? Obviously, night and day, I would guess.
Well, in the days when I was brand manager for Mustang or working with the Jaguar brand, there were a lot of opportunities to dabble with motorsport. I think the difference now is I've jumped in with both feet. But throughout my career, one way or the other, I was close to or tried to stay close to racing and the racing business. I think because of that, I was attracted to come take this job. But it's proven to be a good move so far.
How did they find you? You're working for Ford. You're off Timbuk 3 someplace. How in the world did they find you?
Bobby Rahal.
Really?
Yeah, he's a Jaguar dealer.
Yeah.
Gentleman I've done business with in the past. And somehow, probably over a drink in Shanghai at the Chinese Grand Prix, they cooked up a scheme to try to bring me over.
Shanghai?
That's where he was. I wasn't there. I wish I had been. But.
Your wife said, I don't want to go to Shanghai. I got enough trouble here. Do you miss not living outside the country? You're here, you're in the office every day, you're on the road to some place around here. Do you miss being in Japan and living in Italy or wherever you've been around the world?
Well, maybe a little. I mean, those trips are special. They've been a special part of our family and our time together. They kind of formed us as a group. But right now we're doing plenty of traveling. There's nothing wrong with that. I see a lot of hotel rooms, and I think that'll keep us content for a few years.
But there's only 3 more weeks, and the season's over. Then what do you do?
Oh no, everybody says that, but that's not the case.
Not for you.
Everybody talks about the off season. That's not.
Well, not for you. No.
Yeah. Now, I mean, as soon as the checkered flag drops, everyone goes off and celebrates, and we're there. Trying to put together the championship celebration so that we can hand our trophy out, and then as soon as that's done, we got to drop that driver in a jet, fly him to New York, and start a media tour. So we'll go several weeks after the season ends before we actually start to take a break.
I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to insult you. I didn't mean that. I mean, the racing season ends. The racing season, and your work starts.
We get going.
Really get going.
We got to work harder in the off season.
That's right. Because if you haven't got it done by the time the season starts, you missed.
Yeah.
It's got to be done now. Is this more fun? Is this as fun as you thought it would be, or is this getting, oh, geez, we're on the road again?
No, it's more fun.
Really?
It's definitely more fun. It all pays back in one moment. When those cars fire their engines, pull off the grid, take the first lap, it pays off for every hour of work we put in that week or the months ahead. And, I wouldn't give it up for anything.
And it's got to make you feel good when you look in the grandstands and you see more people than you saw the last time.
Most of the time, yeah, fortunately. And maybe even more so, the number of people watching us on television has proven to be great.
Well, one of these days, and something that's disturbed me, and I've been accused of being disturbed before, that there's a stock car series that's on television with a program every single day. Now, they've got people convinced that's the greatest racing in the world, and I hate to tell you this, but I don't think it is. I think anytime you race side by side with somebody, as close as these cars get with open wheels, and they very seldom have a miscue, that's exciting. Now, is anything moving forward in the marketing world, in the sales world, to get a television program on the air?
We're trying. We're not quite there yet. I think the primary objective is to take the program we have now and get a bigger audience for it. We've talked to NBC about a couple program opportunities. We have had the opportunity to put a few drivers on air. There's been a short series 4 or 5 segments that featured Leo, Joseph, a few others down the line. That'll continue, but it's been limited, and I think we continue to grow.
It just irritates me. I turn on NBC Sports Network and I turn on something else, and there's 2 NASCAR programs on at the same time. I'm thinking, come on, can't IndyCar get 30 minutes a week? Jeez.
We're having some fun. We're kind of pecking away at that problem. You'll start to notice that the coverage online, that even the menu selectors on some of the websites are now starting to change, where IndyCar is popping up next to NASCAR for the very first time and kind of crawling back into the game. But this thing takes time. You got to be patient with us.
But I can't be patient. I'm getting too old to be patient. When something hits big, it'll say, geez, too bad he wasn't here. He was in that box last week, and they shut the door and threw him on the ground. I want to see it happen before I go to the great racetrack in the sky.
All right, I'll get that done.
How often do you guys meet? I sometimes will call, which I don't usually. I send emails, but I call and say, oh, sorry, he's not available, or she's not available. They're in a meeting. How many meetings a week can you go to and accomplish anything? Good Lord.
It's more than you can imagine, unfortunately, yeah. It takes a team, and the team has to get together and communicate, and that's the meeting.
What kind of response did you get to that LED lighting on the sides of the car?
It was great. Yeah, I think the technology worked out beyond my expectations. I'd seen the execution in IMSA, the Tudor Series. I thought it was a smart move. We were able to find newer, more advanced technology, an LED system that was a bit thinner, lighter, brighter, and more visible from the sideline, so to speak. And it worked out fantastic in Mid-Ohio. I think it's going to bring fans who are watching racing, short ovals, road circuits, a better understanding of what's going on, and a clearer view of the push to pass, which I think is very exciting.
Well, I thought when I first heard about it, they were talking about it during the telecast, that the teams don't see that. They don't know who has how many. Well, then that apparently got screwed up, because then they started getting that information, so they knew who had 2 and 3 left.
Yeah, they had a data feed they weren't supposed to have last weekend.
But I only saw one boo-boo. I mean, I didn't see that many of them because they didn't show them all, but I saw one. A guy made a pit stop, and he pulled out, and somebody said, that can't be right, 1.1 seconds. I know he was there longer than that. But other than that, everything else seemed to work. When they changed positions, it popped up as soon as they crossed and what they say, there was 18
timing lines
lines around there, and every time they cross it, it updates.
Corrected,
so that's pretty cool.
It was very real time, easy to follow. And you're right, I think 1 or 2 of the pit stops got mistimed. But it's new technology. There's going to be a slight rock here and there.
John Koski's a pretty clever guy.
He is.
He keeps on top of things. I know I had him in here. He said he had to wait till the budget was approved so he could say, here's what we're doing, because it hadn't been approved yet when he came in. It's amazing what's available, what can be done. And things have improved. When IndyCar first started, I had the bright idea, because I was sitting one day on the track and I see the cameras up on the roof following the car. I said, where's that going? No, nothing. They're just doing it. It's in the trailer. I said, so I went to Mr. Nation. I said, how about if we stream that, put it on the internet? Oh, we can't do that. I said, can I try? Yeah, sure. So it ended up, ABC gave me it. They brought a trailer to the track and parked it. They fed a cable over it, and I had my internet provider show up with the equipment. We plugged in, and I sat in the trailer and called what I saw. And it went zoom. And then we moved I got into the high class, I got up with timing and scoring in an air-conditioned booth, which was better than that damn trailer I was sitting in, and did it from there. And the people who watched was astounding. So much so that IMS Radio Network said, we'll take it over from here. I said, okay, go ahead, whatever. But it's amazing what can happen, what can be done. And you didn't know Buddy McAtee, but he was here a year or so before he passed away, and he said, mark my words, it won't be long before all television will be on the internet and not broadcasted. He ain't far from wrong.
Now,
it's been about 7 years, and he said 5.
There's a definite trend to go to iPads and break the mold that we know today.
And I sit when I'm not at the racetrack and fire up my computer and go to racecontrol.indycar.com and watch the practice and qualifying. It's all streamed. That's fabulous.
Well, if
It's
we're
a
not
great
streaming it, NBCSN or ESPN streaming it as well. So there's a way to get it no matter where you are.
And I'm watching. So don't mess up. I'm watching. All right, I appreciate you coming in, stopping by, taking the time to say hello. I think you're on the right track. You probably have heard me say things to you, and you say, geez, calm down. We're getting there. I'm in a hurry.
It's okay. There's a lot of people in a hurry. But
I'm sure.
I think you're right. We're getting there, and thank you for inviting me again today.
Well, I'm glad you brought your wife and your son along so they kept you in tow. You didn't get out of line.
When I told them I was going to a bar, they had to check up on me.
Is that true?
No, I'm kidding.
I know it's not. I just thought I'd ask them. Keep up the good work. And you hear from me every once in a while. I am working on a new email I'm sending out. I don't know that I would copy you, but I might. Some things that are concerning me. I know Mr. Miles says, oh, geez, not him again. But he does answer, or somebody does. I assume it's him. So I've got another one I'm working on that I'm unhappy about, so we'll see what happens. I know they don't listen to me. Nobody cares. I submitted 4 or 5 suggestions for president of competition and whatever else operations.
Are you up for the job? You want it?
No. No, but I made 4 suggestions, I think it was. And in fact, he made a comment. We got suggestions in forum from one of the media people. I said, but that was me. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy Pocono. Have you been to the Poconos before? Oh, excuse me. Well, that's right. They were there last year. Great place. I hope they pack the place.
I do too.
I'm sorry? Thanks for stopping.
Thank you. Thank everybody.
C.J. O'Donnell, Executive Vice President of Marketing for IndyCar and the Indy Racing Series. Thanks for coming. Is Matt here? Oh, there he is. He just got here. That's nice of you. In the meantime, tonight's show is presented by Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville, Indiana. Come to the country to see why the best prices are, in fact, in the country at Sam Pierce Chevrolet. You'll also see why Sam is always at or near the top of customer satisfaction ratings. Just take I-69 north to exit 34, go south 1 mile, and you will see that Sam Pierce, when he sells you a car, he doesn't stand behind it, he stands alongside of you. If you have a problem, he will take care of it. The Indy Racing Experience is the home of the greatest, most exciting race car ride in America, and you could be a part of it. Just call 317-243-7171, extension 106. Make your reservation when you can go. They still run for another month or so at the Speedway. And mention my name and Don K, and lo and behold, you get a 20% discount. If you are a vintage car buff, which a lot of people are, I highly recommend you go to svra.com and subscribe to Vintage Racing Quarterly. It is a first-class magazine. For those of you who have followed IndyCar for a number of years, you're likely to see a lot of the cars that you remember when you first started coming. They're still up and running. They've been rebuilt, refurbished, and they're out on the track. And their next event will be August 20th to the 23rd with the Indy cars at Pocono International Raceway. They're going there with the Pocono Indy 500, so if you want to see some great racing and some beautiful race cars, get out to Pocono to see the SVRA event August 20th to the 23rd. And if it's time for a new insurance for your home, your car, or yourself, do what I did. Call Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in the outstanding town of Speedway. Mike Pardee will help you, and you might be surprised. Let him give you a quote, and he will probably get you a better coverage for less money. He did it for me. He's done it for a lot of listeners. Give him a try. The number is 317-248-0070. That's VP Insurance in the town of Speedway, 317-248-0070. And founded in 1993 to spearhead Honda's entry into IndyCar racing, Honda Performance Development has overseen successful racing efforts in all levels of the sport, from karting and quarter midgets to IndyCar and prototype sports cars. HPD offers race engines and competition products for professional, amateur, and entry-level racers. For more information about HPD and the company's racing product lines, please visit hpd.honda.com. That's hpd.honda.com. www.honda.com. My next guest is a young gentleman who is working his way through. He's run the ladder system with the Mazda Road to Indy, and he is looking to get up to Indy cars, and he leaves tomorrow morning to go out to Sonoma to test one of the Andretti cars with Marco Andretti. Are you going to be with him tomorrow, test some tires?
No, unfortunately not.
Oh, you're just going to be there and shoo him on?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think Marco's got a flight straight after the test, and he goes straight out to Sonoma. So he meets up with me, I think, on the morning of the test, and hopefully he can make the flight on time, and we can get some laps in there. But if not, Justin Wilson's going to be there for us on reserve.
Really?
So if Marco can't make it, I guess Justin gets in, and it'll be Justin and I.
Well, we're going to find out how this guy's doing. He's shown that he comes from a family that is nothing but racing. The Brabham name is known around the world. So please welcome Mr. Matt Brabham. Is it difficult because of your name? I mean, between Unser and Brabham, probably the two most well-known motorsports names in the world. Does it create a problem, or does it open a door for you?
I don't think it creates a problem at all. It definitely is a benefit. I see it. I guess it opens a few doors because obviously my dad and my grandfather race at the Indy 500, and they know a lot of people, and people tend to stick around in racing, and it's a very small world. So there's definitely a lot of connections that we've made that have progressed my career forward. Obviously Michael Andretti was a teammate of my dad when he first joined IndyCar, so I guess that's how our family got connected there, and I ended up driving for him for the past 3 years. So it's led into a couple of IndyCar tests this year. So yeah, it's definitely a benefit to have the name. Doesn't add any extra pressure at all. So yeah, I only see it as a positive.
When you mention the name Brabham, the first thing that comes up is Sir Jack, three-time world champion. Then your dad comes along and he starts racing, and that's got to be something to try to live up to when the level is that high. But your dad was a champion in his own right. He had nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, I got to talk to him when he was here for the SVRA race, and I said, how come you're here and Matt's not driving something? He said, he's working on it. Next year should be a good year. And I said, well, that's good. What does your dad do now? I mean, he obviously doesn't race except the SVRA event.
Yeah, he just did that for fun, and he really enjoyed that. It's been a struggle to try and get him to anything. He just doesn't want to drive anything, and I don't know why. I mean, I guess when he retired, he just didn't really want to. He just really find it interesting anymore. But yeah, it was great to see him get back into a car, and he was really excited about it, and he tended to enjoy it. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I think. Sorry, what was it? I blanked out there. Sorry.
So what is he doing?
It's a tough question, really.
Oh, no.
Well, he's not doing much at the moment, but he's going to hate me for saying that.
Does he play golf?
No. I think last time he played golf, he shut his finger in the door of the car, so that wasn't quite so good. No, he used to do BMW driver training in Australia, and he was working hard at that and basically just funding my career early on and just working really hard for me. So I couldn't thank him enough, really. I mean, he's just been out there. In recent years, he's stopped working for BMW in Australia, and he's over here full-time with me. And he's been doing a really good job at just, basically, he's just focusing on my career, and me and him are working together, trying to get things rolling and get some traction.
Now, you're leaving here tomorrow, and you're going out to Sonoma, and part of the deal was, and I talked to Jason Penix, and he said that Road to Indy has been working on this program to allow you guys that are coming up from the the Indy Light Series to get some time in an Indy car, and there's 4 or 5 of you going out there this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess it was kind of strange because no one really thought about this rule that had just come out this year. It might have even been out last year, but I'm not really sure. And it all kind of came about where it's obviously just trying to find any possible way I could get into IndyCar, the test day, anything I can get. And I was talking with a couple of the Honda guys, and they mentioned that there's a rule that they found in the rule book, and we're all looking kind of at this rule, and it said that you could test, a team gets an extra 2 test days if they test an Indy Lights driver. So obviously I was all over Andretti trying to get me in the car, and I was talking with the Honda guys that were working with Andretti too, and it was all a bit, while this was all going on, it was super quiet because I think Andretti realized, what a benefit it is to have 2 extra test days in the season, especially with the aero kits, and they have a lot of new stuff to go through. So they saw that and were like, oh yeah, let's keep this really quiet. And
leading into Iowa, they said, "Oh, we're going to go test you at Iowa. We're going to do the test with Marco. We're not really sure because the rule was a bit shady." And so we got in, and nothing was announced. Like, no one said anything until the day of Iowa. And I rolled out there, and it was me and Marco, and Ed Carpenter was doing a rookie orientation with Filippi, and so they didn't actually get as many laps as what we did. And Marco and I ran the whole day at Iowa, went through a lot of testing elements together, and we ended up finding out a lot. And then we led into the race at Iowa, and Andretti always been strong there, and Ryan Hunter-Reay went out and won the race, and everyone kind of figured out that the test day that they got before Iowa was all because of the Indy Lights driver rule. And once that we got that out of the way and all went public, I think we kind of opened a can of worms, because as soon as that test was done, they were organizing this test at Sonoma, and as it's been being organized and IndyCar set the test date for us, all the other teams like Penske, Ganassi, they've all jumped in there with Indy Lights drivers. Now it's going to be basically just an Indy Lights test day with a few IndyCar drivers. It's like six drivers, I think, Indy Lights drivers, or 5, and yeah, a whole bunch of IndyCar drivers, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah, you're going for Andretti, you and Marco. Chip Ganassi has Scott Dixon and Sean Rahal. It's Rayhall, not Rahal. KVHS has got Sebastian Bourdais and Ryan Feeney. Rahal Letterman's got Graham and Ed Jones. Schmidt has Ryan Briscoe and Jack Harvey. And Mikhail Alishin was going to be behind the wheel of one of the cars from Schmidt for a refresher test. And then Penske has Juan Pablo and Will Power going out with Spencer Pigot and Nelson Piquet Jr. Where did Piquet get in on this thing? He hadn't been around much.
Well, I think he just jumped in and did those 2 races at Toronto, so that classified him as an Indy Lights driver. So obviously, if you look at the Indy Lights drivers and his name's in there as well, he's definitely one of the top picks to take to an IndyCar test because of his experience. So I'm not surprised that Penske got in there, and he kind of lucked out with that one. So he's definitely going to be one to watch at the test. But yeah, no, that's how he got in on that.
Now, have you found out, you've been in IndyCar at least once, I'm going to be a second, has your trip up the ladder system, has that been a help? When you got the IndyCar, you said, I kind of understand this. I felt something. It's a little stronger, a little faster, but I'm not scared to hell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess that's what the whole program's designed to do, is get all the drivers that come through the American racing system ready for IndyCar, and I think it did a superb job. And I think that's going to be displayed again at the test at Sonoma. And we've had a lot of drivers come through Indy Lights in the program, like Connor, Tristan, and obviously Joseph Newgarden's really coming on strong now, and he learned all of his career through the Mazda to Indy. And when I got in to the IndyCar for the first time, I kind of went out on track at Iowa and thought, wow, this is pretty much the same as Indy Lights car. Like, I actually was not impressed at all. And I thought, wow, this, it's got the same power, it feels the same. And, I was driving around, doing some laps at Iowa, and I was flat, easy. And I was like, wow, this is really easy. Like, I didn't expect it to be that easy. And then the engineers and the Honda guys came over on the radio and said, oh, yeah, change the engine map to the highest map. And it turns out I was, running on the lowest engine map. So they were just, bringing me into it smoothly and slowly and cautiously. And when I changed the engine map, I didn't really think about what the engine maps would do, and they kind of just came over and said, oh yeah, go to map 4, and I had no idea what that meant. So I went to map 4 and went into the next corner, and it was the fastest car I've ever driven in my life, and it was completely different to an Indy Lights car, and I absolutely scared the crap out of myself. It was pretty scary, and that's just one thing that quite didn't prepare. It was changing all the engine maps and the telemetry they have over the radios and the control they have over you in the car was just crazy, and that was the biggest thing to get used to. But obviously, after I did a couple of runs, it definitely opened my eyes up, and Iowa is a pretty scary place in itself. But after a couple of runs, I felt like I was right up to speed, and it felt great. I think everything that I had done up to that point, prepared me well enough, and it wasn't like I was getting in and going through a massive learning curve. It only took a couple of runs, and I was up to speed.
Now, you were born in Boca Raton. That makes you an American.
Yeah, correct.
So now they got to start promoting you, because my thinking is, from watching what's happened, the viewership on television, is partially because now 4 of the last 5 races have been run by an American. And now Americans are paying attention. It's kind of waked up. So they got to start saying, hey, we got this guy here too.
Yeah.
How are things looking for next year?
Yeah, good. I mean, it's definitely tough. There's a lot of us in the same boat. Obviously Connor Daly comes up to mind. We've been friends for a long time, and we've known each other since we were 4 or 5 years old, and our dads are racing as teammates together. But yeah, there's a lot of us out there that are really talented and, really great drivers trying to get into IndyCar, and it's all about getting the right connections, the right opportunity, and the right sponsorship all in line and one to try and get a deal together. There's a lot of guys coming in with a lot of money that are just completely paying for their rides with no sponsorship, and it's tough to compete because those guys aren't any no slouches. They're great drivers and they probably deserve to be there, but when they're bringing money and a lot of us others don't have money to bring, it's quite tough, and everyone's been struggling with that. So yeah, just for me, the main goal at the moment is just working 100% on next year and looking for sponsorship. That's pretty much my all-day job, is trying to find sponsorship and connect with people and get the money to get into IndyCar.
Well, that's probably all well and good that you are saying I spend every day looking, and Dad will buy that story. However, I was trying to figure out, because I don't have your cell number, I don't have an email address. I went to your website. That didn't work worth a hoot, although you did answer me once. So I went to Facebook, which is not one of my favorite places to go. Now, I have to say, you're having a lot of fun. You were at the last thing was that you were at Kings Island with Gabby, who was here last week for his birthday.
Yeah.
And all of the pictures I see are kind of like this one. Is it because you're a race driver that these young ladies seem to want to spend time with you?
I think a little bit of it is because I talk funny a little bit. That kind of helps here, but the race car driver thing helps. But I know I got a really lovely girlfriend, and we've been doing some fun things lately. Yeah, that's a picture of her and I. So
well, good. We're not going to get in trouble for anything else.
That's us at the MotoGP. So I mean, we got to have fun somewhere, and racetracks, are good and all, but we got to have other hobbies outside the track, and obviously trying to beg for money is not so fun. So we got to figure out things to do in between that.
Are you finding doors opening a little easier? You keep reading the economy's turning around, things are looking better, companies are making money. Of course, it would seem to me from what I've been reading in the business page, forget about talking to marketing people, go see the CEOs, they're making all the money, they got money to spend. I saw one the other day in the paper, he made $100 and some million last year. What the hell, if you 10, that'd be good for a couple of years.
Yeah, I don't think it's getting any worse. I mean, obviously, it's getting better. I think IndyCar's on the rise, so the product with IndyCar and the racing is by far the best in the world, I think, and it's been like that for a couple of years now. It's just they got to figure out how to really sell it and market it and get it on TV and promote it in the right way, and that's what they've struggled with. So as soon as that starts getting better, and hopefully it does, then it will really help out all of us, all the rest of us that are trying to get into the sport also, with selling it to sponsors, and hopefully it's on the rise. I mean, I think it's not getting any worse, that's for sure. It's definitely on the rise, and just got to keep riding that wave, I guess, and working hard.
If they called you and said, hey, we'd like you to make an appearance in Pocono, go out to Pocono, would you go out there for a couple of days? If they said, would you go out and do some PR for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing any of that. Yeah.
Well, it would seem to me that would be a good idea. And I suggested to Mr. O'Donnell while he was here that when they have the driver meetings in January, whenever it is, I said, sit everybody down and say, how many of you would like a pay raise? And I'm sure there'll be some hands go up. So here's how we can do that. We use you to promote the series. We get more people in. We get companies interested. They spend more money in sponsorship. You get a pay raise.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Makes sense. What does Mr. Andretti say when you keep hounding him to get in a car?
He always says that I'm on the short list, I guess. So I was definitely trying to get in on the Formula E stuff as well, because that's starting to all pick back up. I wouldn't mind doing something like that, but yeah, I mean, Andretti, Michael's been wonderful to me. He's been, really, really good for my career, that's for sure. I mean, these test days with the Indy Light stuff and the test days, obviously at Sonoma and Iowa and the IndyCar, I mean, that's, all on them, and Andretti, it wasn't me, so, I'm really grateful for them for that and using me. It could have been anyone out there, and they always seem to, be on my side and working for me and working hard to get me in. So, incredibly grateful for that. And he's a really nice guy. It's almost like he's like the Andretti family is a very tight family. It's like that Italian flair, I guess, where they all keep each other close. And I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Does John Lopes look out for you?
I'm not sure what's going on with that at the moment.
I've known John since he first came in. He was with a team called Team Extreme in '96, I think it was, and the driver was a lawyer.
Yeah.
I said, gee, many Christmas, if he's talking while he's driving, he's probably lying, so be careful. Good guy. I can't think of his name, but he's a really, really nice guy. Do you have any aspirations to have followed your father and your grandfather into Formula One?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously...
Well, you just lost about 10 fans.
Wrong. Yep, sorry, guys. No, I like Formula One. I mean, it's the World Championship. It still has that brand, and being world champion is definitely something that's appealing to me. But unfortunately, on that side of things, there's no opportunities, really. I mean, to try and get into Formula One is going to take a lot of money. It's really tough. Not so much for, I think, the driver competitiveness and trying to get into the sport, but just getting the right connections and getting in, basically. I think the only people that really get in on merit are really the Red Bull drivers that come up through the Red Bull Junior program, and unless you're part of that, it's going to be pretty far-fetched to get in. But it's definitely something I've always looked at. I was very inspired by my grandfather racing, and obviously to win team championships and driver championships in Formula One was pretty cool. So I think that'd be cool. But obviously all my goals and all my focus at the moment is on IndyCar and staying in America, and sports car, just anything I can get into here, because all my opportunities have lied in America, and they've all come up in America, and it's just because the racing over here is a lot more open, and it's just a lot more forgiving to get in, and there's way more opportunities, and it's a lot nicer over here than Europe, that's for sure.
Well, it seems to me, and I hear a couple of drivers that people know and fans like, that maybe at the end of the rope, and one or two of them I've heard could be gone. So some of the younger guys are moving on, and some of the guys that are now with smaller teams could move up. So the opportunity, I think, and also the fact that several of these teams, you don't have to go out and bring a sponsor. They already got them. They're looking for talent. And obviously, with your name, you got to think, how far can the apple fall from the tree? The tree isn't that big. How did you like the Formula E?
Yeah, it was good. It's definitely new. Like, it has a long way to go, I think. But as a series and as an idea, I think it's a great initiative. Obviously, their fans are going to have to come from some, not all their fans, but a lot of their fans are going to have to be new ones brought into the sport that like different things. I think a lot of motor racing fans that are real motor racing fans are having a hard time adjusting to the idea of Formula E and no noise and all electric cars, which is, understandable. But on a whole, I think it's good. We'll kind of see where it goes. But driving-wise, I think it was a great series. I mean, I jumped in there, did a couple of races for Andretti, and I was racing against, Senners and Prosts and Heidfelds and, passing and racing with those guys and being passed. So it was a great experience for me, and I thought it was like one of the most fun things I ever did. But that was just more so because of the drivers I was racing against. And the cars, they're quite good too. They hold up quite well, and the series has been going, in its inaugural season quite well.
I bet Alain Prost's son was kind of after he hit somebody and flipped the car up, and I bet when his dad, the camera was on him, his dad was not happy at all.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, I bet he got a tongue lashing. What's it like to drive one of those cars? And in IndyCar, you stop and get fuel and change tires. In Formula E, you get out of the car and get in another one.
Yeah, it's definitely different for me. I'd never done a driver change. A lot of Formula E relates to, sports car racing and WEC, so they do driver changes, and they're used to that stuff, and they're big on saving power and fuel, and that's a lot of what the Formula E strategy was. So those guys were used to getting out and into the cars and doing driver changes, but for me it was a bit tough. Changing cars is very much the same as a driver change, where you just unstrap yourself, get out, get back in, and then a bunch of people run over and strap you back in, and you go. But it was definitely cool. I mean, it's different. I mean, it's like you run out of power or fuel or whatever, and then you got to get out of your old car and get into a new one. I mean, it's quite different. But yeah, it wasn't that hard. I mean, we got down to, I think, like 23-second pit stops by just purely on the driver change. So it's not like we were waiting there forever trying to do it all, and it worked quite smoothly. So it was all in all, it was pretty cool.
I suggested, and I got nowhere with this one, to do what we used to do when I was a kid. When you had your bicycle, you put a playing card. You strap it to the fork, and the spokes went around and made, it sounded like a car. I said, why don't you just put spoked wheels on these things, put a card on there, make noise.
Give us some engine noise, yeah. I've heard that some of the cars they're building now that are quite quiet, they have stereos inside the car that play noise to think you're going quicker than you actually are. So, I mean, maybe we could do that where we could give everyone headphones or something and play noise.
How have the crowds been, the fans?
Yeah, they've been great. I mean, I remember, in Beijing when I went there for the first race, there was, it was quite a big event. There was people everywhere, and I'm not sure if it was actually Beijing as the city having people everywhere, or it was actually the race event itself. But I mean, the crowds there were great. Crowds in Miami were great. I mean, there seemed to be good local crowds. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Is Michael going to continue promoting races?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how that side of it's going at the moment, but he's always been interested in that side of things, and it's always been one of his hobbies, I guess, off the side of, or extensions onto his race team, is doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's spread out pretty much. He didn't do a lot of things. Promotion, although I understand that might be sliding a little bit, but he does a lot of things, and if it makes noise and goes fast, he's ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got to think that, as you said, you're on the short list, and I hope it's SHORT instead of SHI something or other list, and that you get your chance, because I've paid attention and watched you, and you're a talented driver. I think you have what it takes, what is needed, plus you're going to be a fan-friendly. Fans are going to love you because you're approachable. You talk to them when I keep telling people, don't go, when they're starting to put this molded helmet on, don't talk to them. It's not a real good time. But the fans are attracted to you, and I think, and obviously so are the ladies. Well, the young lady, I'm sorry. She's not even paying any attention to you. She's looking at her phone. Jeez Louise, what's that? He's up here just,
She's not quite impressed by the race car driver side, I guess.
Well, I guess not. She's, that old guy he's talking to was kind of boring. Well, we wish you well. I appreciate you taking the time to come here. Good luck. What do you on Thursday and Friday? Thursday, yep. I guess.
Yeah. Tomorrow we get in, load up, and then the next day, we're all testing. All of us, I think every single driver is on track, and we're going to pretty much be doing a full day there, and as many laps as we can do.
I wonder why they went, other than there's a race there to finish up the year, why they wouldn't save a little money and go down to Barber. It's closer.
Yeah. Well, I think the main reason was they were talking, I'm not sure if it's 100% true, but I think Sonoma, the last race of the IndyCar season, is a double points race. Yeah. And with the championship being quite close, obviously with the top guys, they all want to test there and do well there for the race because it's, pretty much the most important race of the season.
And, of course, Andretti wants to go because they want to win the damn thing. They don't care.
Yeah,
they just
exactly.
want to win.
Yeah.
Well, good luck to you. And I hope that you're successful in your sponsorship and get back in the series. You need to be there. There's some good young guys coming along and some good young guys that I think are going to be moving up because, let's face it, some of the guys that are running now are getting we've seen them for the last 20 years. Time for them to go in the hayfield.
Yeah,
Time for you to move up.
They got to be at least a couple of tenths slower than when they were really, really young. So, I mean, us new guys have got the speed coming through. So, I don't know. We'll see if we can get a bunch of the new guys come through. Obviously, Sage is doing a good job, on the track and results-wise. So, I mean, we just definitely got to get this young driver push going and start beating these experienced guys.
Oh yeah, terrible. And let's face it, Sage is making some friends. Ed Carpenter's a good friend. Probably he and
Graham.
He and Graham had dinner the other night.
Yeah, he's come in with a bang, and everyone seems to love him. Yeah,
he's not afraid. That's for sure.
No, absolutely not. I mean, that can be good in some ways. I mean, I guess he's the guy that's going to come in there and he's going to make the moves and try and win the race. He's not going to be scared of the older guys pushing him around. But I know we've seen quite a lot of controversy there, so
that's all right.
Interesting to watch.
Yeah, and it brings people to the seats to see what's going to happen next week. Yep. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Good luck to you. I hope your test goes well, and we'll look forward to reading or hearing that you've got a deal put together, and I'll call you up again. Well, I'll email you.
Yeah. Facebook.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for the kind words. I appreciate it. Cheers.
Keep an eye on him. He's going to be there. Matt Brabham. Next week we'll be here. I have had a couple of people lined up. I didn't hear back from the techs if they're both available next week. But again, go to autosportradio.com, the website, click on current show, and when I have the guests, I will put them up and you'll see who they are and then email. So, and also the U.S. Nationals are forthcoming, and I'm working on some of that as well. So stick around, come out and see us. We'll see you here next week. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for you being here. Till next week, Dan Kay saying good night. See you next Tuesday. And if anybody wants to see the Indians on Friday, come up and see me.